And she was so shiny. And this chair. Daphne liked to sit in chair.
Not helping, Fred.
You can't see the entirety of this outfit. Actually, I'll just edit it in and you'll be able to see it. But the green part, the fluffy part hits. Hi, did you miss me? I'm back with another deep dive. This time we're talking about Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. It's an adaptation of a franchise that everyone is familiar with, at least most people are. A pretty simple premise. You've got 4 people and a dog solving cases that look like they could be paranormal at first, but turn out to be just perpetrators that are pretending to be ghosts and shit like that. They get unmasked and the mystery is solved. First few versions of this show were just archetypes in the form of characters that try to catch a villain of the week. Pretty straightforward. I personally grew up watching old Scooby-Doo because there were reruns of it on TV, and I didn't know about Mystery Inc. until pretty recently. This show was produced by Warner Brothers Animation and Cartoon Network. With Mitch Watson and Michael F. Ryan writing the show, it has been discussed by Mitch Watson that the series got to experiment so much and have this episodic structure where there's one, continuous story over the whole season because of 3 reasons mainly. First of all, they had an order of 52 episodes right out of the gate. Second of all, there was an executive that was in charge of overseeing this project, and he was either fired or he quit. The creators don't really know, but the point is they didn't have as much oversight as they usually do on other projects, and in combination with the fact that they were targeting a British audience, not an American one, they had a lot of storylines that they could get away with. One of the major contributors to the show not getting as much love when it was airing was the fact that Cartoon Network was not very happy with the show for God knows what reason. They pulled it multiple times. They would cut off the end of episodes where the villain is revealed, which is genuinely baffling. For a show like this that is based on mystery solving, you have to solve the mystery by the end of the episode. That's just how it is. But they kept on doing this step by step, so a lot of people were speculating that it's an attempt to sabotage the show. I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but it definitely doesn't look good. Their decisions seem like decisions of a network that's trying to tank you, that's trying to genuinely just ruin your run, and I don't know what the hell that would be for, but it is what it is. It wasn't until later when Netflix purchased the rights to this show to show it on their platform that Mystery Inc. got this huge audience. I think personally that it probably got so much love also because binging became a thing, and even though I'm not really enjoying binging because it does ruin a lot of things also, it does help with garnering an audience when you have episodic show that actually carries one story throughout. It does create a community around the show, around this entity. And also, considering that currently we can only dream of getting 10 episodes per season, having 52 episodes is basically having 5 seasons out at the same time. So it's no wonder that it worked so well for the series, right? It is basically a series that took what was working about the original in a respectful manner and offered something new and well made, which is a luxury that not a lot of fans can even dream of. Creators of the show did say that they are interested in making season 3. They were even asked to come back and make season 3, but because of scheduling conflicts, it's never happened. I don't know if it never will. It seems like the creators might still be interested, honestly. So let's hope that they mayhaps come back to it and offer something more. Because of the underwhelming popularity of the show at the time of its airing, there was basically no merch, toys, extra content created for it. You don't really get as much to dig through here. The most baffling thing about it is that there's no behind the scenes content. It's quite literally a void. This show also got a huge revival in video essay space. A lot of people were pleasantly surprised by the quality when they went back as adults to revisit that show and found something that was crafted with a lot of care and not just like thrown together haphazardly. Mystery Inc. piqued my interest because a lot of people were requesting a deep dive into it, but also I saw a clip and the humor in it was top-notch, really funny, but also the art direction. It was out of this world, so I wanted to actually take a look at it.
Buy it for your butt, be a green trendsetter. Go green jean, yo!
if you're a real trendsetter, oh my god. Damn it. You gotta know that instead of making a million commentary videos that are commenting on one subject on YouTube and like edit those little videos, I have started to stream now, and we have a pop culture and news day on Thursday on my streaming channel where we talk about all of these topics that we usually discussed here, but I just don't want to be making tiny or overblown videos for these topics anymore. Nara Smith is similar to someone like Serena Joy. I have a very different eye shape that all of these girls do, by the way. I don't have those big honkers. We also do PowerPoint presentation party style live. And the worst part about Stuart Little is his attitude.
You rub your tummy. How'd you like to rub it from the inside, mouse boy?
Where the audience can submit PowerPoint presentations about their hot takes, stories from their lives. It is supposed to be funny, but it could be on serious topic if you're approaching it from a more lighthearted place. We also game sometimes. The Sims 3, Disco Elysium.
Oh, baby boy, you're already in the other place.
And my favorite, Nancy Drew, some vintage games like
That should call.
But I have no magic powers. How will I light the crystals?
Well, I never said anything about using magic. There are.
I didn't say anything about using magic. He's like, fuck, girl. There's also a literature club on Patreon where we talk about usually theory, art history, and we watch movies, but the movies are usually quite silly because we're trying to balance it out, you know, not depress ourselves, but be informed. And of course, don't forget about IDBY. God damn it. Whatever, you get it. Add over. As per usual, this deep dive is not a recap. If you want to know what happens in the show, go watch the show, or I guess watch a recap if you want to. I don't know why you would, but whatever. You can do that too. This is an analysis, okay? The analysis is from the perspective of art direction, writing, design, and world building. So get a snack, settle in. We're gonna be here a while. And let's start with...
Don't give up. This has all happened before.
Jinkies, you have inspired me.
I have? I love you, head girl!
The art direction of this show is honestly the main reason why I decided to even make this deep dive. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I have heard of this show multiple times because people request shows on this channel. They request deep dives, and I get a lot of requests for animation in general, especially animation that is from the 2000s to 2015-ish, because a lot of people want to kind of get my perspective on the art direction in those shows, whatever. The point is, the art direction of this show, it was so fun and so well done that I really wanted to talk about it. The Scooby Doo universe is quite obviously really vast. There has been so many takes on it. I mean, if you want to see a pretty short breakdown of different types of movies that have been done, you can watch Drew Gooden's video on it. It's pretty funny, covers a lot of ground. There's the 90s movies that a lot of people are familiar with. Scooby shows, especially Scooby Doo Where Are You?, which is a show that I saw on TV when it was, well, it was actually reruns, obviously, but it's just the one that I kind of associate with this show first and foremost. It uses and abuses flat and straight angles when it comes to camera framing and blocking. This is where the classic sequences of characters escaping from villains by running in between doors or cupboards or whatever comes from, specifically in this franchise, of course, but it is heavily associated with it. Chase scenes that are quite flat when it comes to the angle from which the audience is watching the action from. Usually the characters just run across the screen from one side to another. The camera rarely takes any detours. And yes, I am gonna call, the storyboarding angles and direction as camera angles, because this is the kind of thing that we all collectively internalized when it comes to conversations about moving images in art. So get off my ass. Okay. Anyway, the angles in that show were simple. Action sequences quite elementary as well, with close-ups being literal zooms with no perspective change. Okay. So it's no surprise that what's new Scooby-Doo introduces more dynamic angles with perspective changes, but the characters don't feel any different, and the color palettes are very similar. In true old school American animation style, you get a lot of different shades of gray for backgrounds, with slightly faded color for the main characters when they're portrayed in low light, which happens quite a bit in Scooby-Doo, obviously, because they are doing a lot of their sleuthing around at night, right? This isn't much of a dig as much as an observation, because I do think that they're probably doing it to just give it a little bit more of a somber vibe or more of a mysterious vibe. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with mixing in a lot of bright colors even when you're trying to be mysterious, but I do understand that that was kind of the goal a lot of the time when it comes to shows like Scooby-Doo or even shows that were focusing on superheroes. You know, they wanted it to look a bit more badass, and they thought that maybe desaturating it would do the trick. Now, this is why Mystery Incorporated is such an interesting addition to the franchise. I don't think I've seen many shows of that size that were produced in America implement so many auteur film and show stylistic choices. This is some Hitchcockian, Lynchian type shit, and it's great. Diva. Yeah. And listen, we'll be here a while because, well, I genuinely took notes every single time I liked a shot or a frame. I did try to combine them into thematic kind of groups, cut out some repetition where what I liked was very similar, but there's a lot to cover, so strap in. Colors, textures, and light. Let's start with this chase scene from the second episode of the show. An episode that let me know that I'm in for a treat, okay? That I'm in for some gorgeousness, okay? Episode 2 is about the gang investigating in Gatorsburg, a town nearby Crystal Cove that has been abandoned by everyone except for like one family that runs a local motel. The entire episode has so many great visual moments, but let's start with the chase scene because it is absolutely superb. It starts with Scooby, who is outside in the van. When he jumps out, the entire shot is aglow, even though this is a night scene. Obviously, it is due to the high contrast in the shot, with a really bright lone street lamp established earlier when the van was parked outside of this motel. Look at how colorful and saturated this is. It's so great. Notice the action being delivered in silhouettes because of the environment being so bright. With this approach, the feeling of it being a night scene isn't lost, while at the same time, the classic backlit effect that is so common in horror and thriller movies is achieved. Scooby gets inside of the motel, finds Daphne with Fred, the lights go out, and we get some fantastic lighting and color choices here too. The red-pink glow, with those colors being the most visible on the edges of figures that catch light, is Lynchian neo-noir at its best. Except it's in an animated form and it's fucking Scooby-Doo. Of course, Lynch himself was inspired by a lot of earlier films. This isn't to say that this approach is his invention, but he did popularize it in the West. Then we get a brief break with Shaggy and Velma and jump back into action with the light going out again, this time filling the room with purple and making the outside scenery that can be seen through the window green. This green glow is of course very Vertigo if you're familiar, which you probably are. Even if the style is a little closer to Lynch, you have got to admit that Vertigo, including the nightmare scene, must have been an inspiration for these two seasons. Every damn frame a painting. A pop art painting, of course, but a painting nonetheless. They run into the bathroom and basically walk into a weird blend of the Psycho bathroom scene mixed with a healthy dose of Saw. Take the physicality of the Psycho scene and the washed out, grimy, low contrast Saw scenes, and you get this setup. The outside of that motel, the road that leads to it, the gross spatters and textures inside of all the rooms of this almost abandoned, run-down place is so satisfying and enriching to look at. Genuinely, what a feast, okay? I just know that the amount of visual beauty here made a bunch of kids develop their visualization abilities. I know that those kids grew up being able to not just visualize an apple, but a whole ass naturemort. And you know I'm right. You know what else this scenes reference? Or let me correct myself. You know what these scenes are inspired by? the 1977 Suspiria, yes, and other movies that are in the same saturated horror realm. This aesthetic permeates most of the show. The little cards, intro and outro, most of the important scenes share this visual language. I love when animation takes advantage of the medium to its fullest and sticks to a set of strong art direction decisions, and somewhat surprisingly, Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. is one of those animations. And I know that maybe some of you are going to be kind of offended by me saying that, but I'm just saying that oftentimes a lot of shows that come from a franchise that are made and remade, reintroduced to the audience over and over again, get pretty bad additions to the lineup just because they know they're gonna sell because of the franchise name. So there's oftentimes lack of actual artistic integrity. So it is surprising that Mystery Inc. looks like this, to be honest. This show does rely on color theory conventions a lot, but to its benefit. There are many sets that have great color palettes. Daphne's house at night is a turquoise and peach scene with a pink interior. So pretty, dude. Like, sickening. Radio station that Angel works at? Genuinely, when I saw it for the first time, I had to take a minute, okay? I had to take a minute because, bitch, I just love saturated scenes that are done this well so much. The amount of orange, pink, and green here, and the shades that they picked just reflects Angel's color palette so well. Are you seeing this? The Hex Girl stage and the outside of that venue. Establishing shots in this show are absolutely immaculate. Just a few examples. The fair from above in episode 13, Chan's coffee shop, this arcade, the hotel we already mentioned, the colors, textures, and depth in these scenes in episode 8, the lights, the way that the light is communicated in this show is just so satisfying. It's just so well integrated into any and all environments. Just look at this tiki bar and the way that those lanterns warm up this purple scene, the light reflecting off of the ground, the attractions glowing in the back. Many direct lights like from cars and flashlights got a pretty rainbow glare. It's not super unique or anything to add those flares, but all of those elements together underline the way that this show paints each scene in a beautiful way. There's this recurring shot of the mystery machine parked on a hill with Crystal Cove glowing below that gets updated over time across 2 seasons, starting with episode 11 in season 1. Every time this scene occurs, it is at an important and reflective point in the story, creating a strangely nostalgic feeling. Another standout is the scare house. I love the visible brush textures that they chose here, which seems to be the creator's preference since the same approach is implemented in Looney Tunes and they have a lot of crossover in terms of who was producing it, other things like that. Looney Tunes from 2011, by the way, that's the one I'm talking about. Every single angle here is just a joy to look at. Animation tends to be quite colorful in general, but this neo-noir approach is just fantastic. I know I'm gushing here, but just come on. Honestly, if I'm gonna mention every single shot that I liked, we're gonna be here all day. But I do want to discuss some of the episodes that I personally like more than the others because they have like a higher concentration of really beautiful visuals. Every episode has at least one stunning shot, to be fair. But season 1, episode 19, Vincent Van Gogh episode. This episode is genuinely insane. Not like story-wise. I guess the craziest episode would probably be the last episode of season 2 when it comes to story.
We are ready to serve.
But visually, yeah. Van Gogh's house looks like this. A whole ass gothic rainbow up in there. Are you seeing this shit? Like, this magenta carpeting and the wallpapers. Dude, the wallpapers. Are you seeing this? Look at this. This sea foam green. The lighting, as per usual, is gorgeous. I need everyone to go watch this episode, okay? Even if you've seen it before, man, okay? Season 2, episode 10. The gang stops at an old mansion/library and accidentally gets high as hell. Well, actually, they're kind of gotten high forcefully by the villain of the week. I simply have to make you look at these bathrooms. I simply have to, because look, are you kidding me? And this one too. This is straight out of The Shining, of course. I know. It fits here perfectly, and it honestly, it's such a standout background. You can't tell me anything. Do not star me on that Japanese Edo period BS with the octopus legs, because I'm gonna go on a fucking tirade. We all know that. Season 2, episode 4, Dream World location. In this episode references an artist that I discussed on this channel before in my Suspiria video. His name is MC Escher. This never-ending staircase print that he's made inspired many artists over the years, including set designers of 1986 movie Labyrinth. A lot of references to iconic sci-fi and horror movies or shows. This particular scene is all over the place, not just in one episode, but this red room, quite literally a Twin Peaks reference, yes, including a guy dancing. This is a fun visual to have in the story, especially in order to wrap up the mystery of Crystal Cove, including the weird paranormal parts of it. So when it comes to 3D and particle effects mix, it's one of those stylistic choices that threw me off just a little bit because it didn't feel like stylistically it should have been a 3D animation. It looks very much 2D in many shots, right? But the way that they mixed it makes you wonder what kind of animations they've mixed here. The thing with this show is that they decidedly went for 2D animation look, but it definitely uses some 3D animation and particle effects that are unexpected for Scooby Doo. The show is definitely going for the classic Scooby Doo transformed rather than all new designs and animation type, like let's say Scooby movie that shows the origins of the gang. You can clearly see this blend in moments like, for example, with this ghost truck in episode 3. The fire at the bottom of the truck is not the same type of animation as the fire that's coming out of the truck exhaust pipes at the top. The truck itself seems to be 3D in some shots, if not all of them. Same for the police car, like in episode 12. We see similar treatments when it comes to Destroido, especially the establishing shots of that factory, company, office building, whatever the hell it is, with the toxic fumes. 3D animation is inserted periodically in a way that is still effective, even though a little clunky, like with the cicada monster in episode 13, or the weird hybrid cows that try to eat the entire town. So let's talk about music and how it influences the overall art direction of the show, right? The intro and outro songs. These two compositions are honestly such a treat. They fit the vibe of the show really, really well, with this slightly gothic but still synth-based sound. The intro is fast and it sets up the tone for the episode really well. It feels weirdly sci-fi, reminds me of UFOs and music that's usually used for alien related stories. And the outro piece is slightly scary and a bit more melancholic than the intro. That fits the vibe pretty well because just considering the amount of cliffhangers and sad endings or tense endings of episodes, it makes a lot of sense that they used a piece like that, right? Mr. E theme. Or technically mystery theme.
Could be a clue.
It's basically just 4 notes that get interpolated a million times, getting different types of instrumentations, productions, slight rearrangements, stuff like that. I like how memorable it is and how important it is to the series, down to it being an actual key to entering Mr. E's lair. Trin Lee, words get stuck in my throat. This song is cute, but it's definitely one of those songs that you get tired of almost immediately, even just after listening to it for 10 seconds, dude. It originally came from a Japanese movie called The War of Gargantuas, a movie based on Frankenstein. It's fun to see that it's introduced in the same episode where the baddies are two giants, the hunters. This Andy Warhol type shit from an episode about an art gallery, moody art rock.
The gardener is clipping the wicker man's chair.
I know it's supposed to be a parody of moody art music. I get it. But unfortunately for me, I do like it. Yeah, unfortunately for me, they got us on the Hex Girls song. Hex Girls?
I'm gonna put a spell on you.
This song is great. It's originally from the 1999 movie that featured Hex Girls for the first time. I love this song. But I'm gonna be real, the performance of it in Mystery Inc. just lost all its sauce from the original. It did. I don't know what to tell you. It's just the truth. The main singer of the group, Thorn, doesn't have the same like magnetism as she does in the original performance or the original animation performance, right? It was just so iconic that it is a little bit of a downgrade. Just look at it side by side.
You get dizzy when I make the sign. You get dizzy when I make the sign. Missing me when I'm out of sight. Missing me when I'm out of sight.
Trap of Love, on the other hand, has more of that OG aura that was missing at first with the Hex Girls performance. Trap of Love is a song that Daphne wrote for Fred, and it is great, diva. It simply is.
Unfeeling heart imprisons me. Trap of love, snare by desire.
I love when animated shows have very memorable music because I think it just leaves such an impression on kids for such a long time. I think kids deserve good music in their shows as well instead of slop that we're giving them currently. I'm just saying. Okay, Daphne's costume for the performance though, it's crazy. We will see crazier outfits in this show though, so whatever, but Dance in Pants, the song. Weird ass song. Absolutely just weird as hell. Love it for the context though. Great clip from the show to use to edit with. There's also Year Dead Mate. It's literally spelled Y-E-R, year, I guess. I couldn't tell you, dude. I'm a foreigner.
You're dead right, mate. Dead right, mate. Left right, mate. That's right, mate.
That song, annoying. Absolutely annoying as balls. Like, it's kind of like a parody in a sense. It is one of those sticky songs that you get sick of immediately. So it's done this way on purpose. However, still annoying. Pacing, delivery of lines, voice direction type deal. It's a huge part of art direction. The movement, pacing of action scenes, physical humor. Specifically, when we're talking about animated projects, line delivery does fall into art direction anyway. This show genuinely excels here, I think. One of the most iconic performances here is the sheriff, this guy.
Are you in trouble? Get it off! Get it off! Get off! Help! Thank you, Ick. Dad? Sheriff Stone, wait!
Oh, and it eats dogs.
What?
Eats dogs, you say?
All right, knock it off, you two.
Who the heck can that be?
Oh, such sights. Weirdo.
This is a great character. He's supremely weird, but moments of him in any and all episodes just work so well. He's kinda like a comic relief, I guess. A lot of his moments with Fred are funny, but more in the writing sense. Here, I gotta say that his line delivery and the type of physical comedy the artists injected into his body language makes for a very entertaining addition to the cast, and outstanding one at that. All of the main cast deliver amazing performances that both borrow from past iconic iterations of these characters and add something new. Like, for example, with Fred, he's more or less flat but cheery manner of speaking fits really well with this, new characterization of Fred that leans into the autistic realm. Not to diagnose a character, because it is just a character, and also I am not a fucking doctor, but we all know what's being insinuated here. Of course, the pacing of these lines make them actually funny. Both voice directing and editing are superb and work well with the physical comedy that's sprinkled in here and there.
Wow, you just don't like this shelf.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Thanks again, Mr. Dieter D.
Code Blue, crash cart in room 613.
Good question and answer session, eh, gang?
We can't go to the finals with Scooby sick like this.
Right. No, of course not. Will you excuse me a second? No! Why?
I got just what you need.
Scream, time for you.
My bedroom. It's our only hope.
Just back away slowly.
Time for some magic of my own.
What?
Confess!
Consume me, you metal beast of my own making.
Playing and singing horrible intellectual music.
Can I keep the wig?
With all that noise!
Quiet, long hair!
Wholesome and untempting.
LOL!
We brought ointment.
She hates ointment! Oh, Fred, my dog. I'm driving.
Boo! Back to work, avocados!
You mess with me.
Chase scenes and fight sequences have a lot of momentum. I think it's important to point out that a lot of the angles are not typical for Scooby-Doo. There is an episode in season 1 of the show about the sidekicks of different types of mystery-solving gangs, episode 14 of season 1. The main storyline of that episode happens in Scooby's head, so as long as he's asleep, the style of animation changes to the old school style. Immediately, the backgrounds don't have that texture that I've praised previously. The colors are mostly saturated when it comes to the characters, with backgrounds being entirely washed out, just like in the past. The angles are back to being flat and not being as, nowhere near as inventive as in the Mystery Inc. iteration. They even start using old sound effects, dude. It's quite literally an old school Scooby-Doo episode within another episode. You can really tell that it's just not hitting the same. It is purposeful, of course, and I still appreciate it. I think it's very interesting, it's very innovative, fun to switch it up like this because it's quite literally a dream, but it only shows why the Mystery Inc. iteration is superior, honestly. In contrast, some of the good chase scenes feature the villain poking through the wall with a spear in what looks like a Saw-inspired episode, with the main villain trapping the characters in really dangerous scenarios, with the visual matching that grimy Saw look. Here are some more shots that work really, really well.
I am so sorry.
Save it!
Basically, the art direction in this show is the star of the show. I want everyone to pay attention to some of the things that I've pointed out next time you watch it, because I think that if you haven't noticed it already, it's definitely going to be a really fun experience to just look a bit closer and see all the little details in the backgrounds. A feast for the eyes whenever you're watching it. 10 out of 10. Cannot recommend it more, especially for those of you who are looking to go into art direction, illustration, concept art, any of that. I think that you will enjoy it.
Don't give up. This has all happened before.
Crystal Cove is under attack by a crazy man baby.
Find somebody else.
But Fred, he's also an evil clown.
What? Nice fur bib.
Wait.
I've never worn something as dumb as this for one of my deep dives. And if you're looking at this string and you're like, well, this is not an ascot. Well, bitch, I told you we're on a budget. Writing of the show. We're going to start with Velma. Velma oftentimes gets the weirdest treatment from the audience, honestly. She's discussed a lot, but she's oftentimes quite bland in the original show and in the original iterations of this franchise in general. Just like every other character though, so don't worry, I'm not coming for Velma here. Sure, she is nerdy and kind of sweet. She's just a couple of personality traits made into a character. A vague aesthetic made into a character. Mystery Inc. manages to actually make her into a person. This stash is not letting me speak. More specifically, like a nerdy teen.
Wry sense of humor, tinged with a whiff of disdain and superiority. Velma?
She's not just there to struggle with her always slipping off her nose glasses. She is also sometimes a little mean and snarky, just like a teen would be. Most of the time, accidentally so. It's genuinely written as a teen flaw that could potentially be reined in or can become a problem in the future. Very Liz Lemon, if you're familiar with 30 Rock and that episode where she is at the reunion with her high school, I think it's a high school reunion, don't remember exactly. And she finds out that she was actually quite mean to all the kids and that she wasn't an underdog as she was kind of making herself out to be. Velma is less aggressive or mean compared to Liz, obviously, but it's definitely that type of stereotype that they're playing around with, and it works really well for her here. Velma's parents own this haunted museum of paranormal activity off Crystal Cove. It's kind of strange because it also has a library and it has a cafe. It's kind of like a lot of things in one, but a very interesting and cool space nonetheless. Her parents try to profit off of the supernatural and all of the weird crimes that go on in Crystal Cove, but that's not unique to them. All the parents are kind of involved in it, especially Velma's and Fred's. Out of all the parents, I'd say that Velma's are probably the best because, dude, this gang's parents are just crazy.
No! Incoming!
Like really not great parents, but Velma's parents are more or less okay to compare to everyone else. We don't really get to see her dad that often. I think that we just see him a couple of times. It doesn't really matter that much in the story. So when discussing Velma and this new iteration of this character, we have to discuss Velma and Shaggy's relationship because it takes up most of season 1 when it comes to their development. You kind of also have to talk about Scooby at the same time because of their throuple situation. Well, not exactly, thank God. But honestly, it might as well fucking be because the amount of jokes, dude, Velma and Shaggy are dating at the start of the show. But it's new, it's not that stable, and Scooby knows nothing about it. If you remember anything from the previous iterations of this franchise, you probably remember Shaggy and Scooby being kind of like a dynamic duo, always being together, right? And Mystery Inc. is no exception. They are always attached at the hip. As you can imagine, it causes a lot of issues between Velma and Shaggy, but it genuinely makes very little sense. Scooby is usually portrayed as a friend to Shaggy. It's not treated as a caretaker and kid type of relationship or, you know, a human and a pet type of relationship that most people have with their pets. So it seems very strange that Shaggy is worried about Scooby knowing about it. It gets so much weirder though. It gets so much weirder, man. First of all, it's hard to figure out why Velma and Shaggy are going out at all. I'm not gonna lie to you. It seems like Shaggy is not into the whole thing.
Not here.
With him quite literally shaking in his boots whenever it comes to hanging out with Velma or showing affection of any kind. So, oh my god, dude. Why is it all in my face? This dynamic is somewhat believable though for kids their age, honestly. I mean, just remember the weird, awkward relationships that you've had when you were that age. However, it is quite awkward to watch them be such a mismatched duo while they're supposedly friends and had a history together before. I think it's competent. And Velma trying to control Shaggy, who really doesn't care about this relationship one bit, does make you wonder how they even ended up going out at all, because there's definitely no chemistry there that would naturally lead them to each other, even against the current of their childish awkwardness, you know what I mean? By control, I do mean like making him change his pants as if she's not wearing the same outfit for like 30 years, forcing him to snap a rubber band on his hand every time he says the word like, which was kind of like, oops, real weird. But the peak weird comes when Scooby finds out about them dating, okay?
Are you cheating on me?
Is this funny? Sure. Yeah. But is this also the weirdest shit imaginable? Also, yes. I mean, let's be real. This is just so strange. This shit progresses too. This is not the only instance of this type of joke being made.
Gave them the best years of my life.
Scooby and Velma actually demand that Shaggy chooses one of them. Okay? Now, jealousy is not a romantic relationship exclusive thing. We all know that. You can be jealous of your friends hanging out with someone else, of course. Or kids can be jealous when it comes to parental affection and another child being brought into the equation. But usually, jealousy requires a parallel relationship. By which I mean, you're supposed to have the same category of a relationship with that one person for it to be clear as to why jealousy sprung up in the first place. Sure, we can stretch it a bit and say that it can still work here. Usually problems like this are solved by redistributing your time between your loved ones in a more equal way, not by choosing your friend or your girlfriend over one another. This whole dynamic, dude, it messes with the vibe. Like, Scooby gets locked up in a prison for criminally insane animals.
Secure all jewelry and loose-fitting clothing.
Yeah, dude. And Velma is... Dude, wait. I need to unzip this thing. Whew, Jesus Christ. He gets locked up in that weird-ass place and Velma is happy about it even though she knows that he's innocent. That kind of level of disdain is really weird and uncomfortable to watch in a group that's supposed to be tight-knit. But whatever, I guess. Shaggy chooses Scooby over Velma, but then tries to win her back for some reason. And half-heartedly so, which doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Like, why is he suddenly trying?
Here's the chance I've been waiting for. To get Shaggy back. All I have to do is refuse to help, but there's no way I'm going to take it. Even though you stole my boyfriend.
A literal dog. The whole weirdness aside, which is definitely just done for laughs, I do think that both Velma and Daphne need to drop the guys in terms of romance. Especially Velma, of course. And you know what? She does do it, by the way. I think that it's a bit sinister how much Shaggy and Scooby technically hate her. I don't think it was the writer's intention, because there are plenty of moments when we're told that they get along and like each other and are friends, but just visualize the timeline and what it means, okay? Velma and Shaggy date. Don't tell anyone. With Velma always having to beg for a crumb of attention or boyfriendly behavior. Scooby finds out about them, loses it, gives Shaggy an ultimatum, and forces him to choose between the two. After Shaggy chooses Velma, temporarily so, Scooby stops talking to Shaggy entirely over it. Then, when Velma and Shaggy are over around episode 15 of season 1, Shaggy starts flirting and going after a different girl in episode 18. And here's the kicker. Hoobie? Fuck, what the hell is a Hoobie? Scooby is helping him to ask her out.
So now that it's over, I was wondering if we could, how do I say this?
Go on a date?
So now suddenly Scooby doesn't have a problem with Shaggy dating. Not only that, but he's also helping. He's literally being a wingman, wing dog. I guess. Okay, so what? They just hate Velma specifically? Like Velma is the issue, not the fact that he's dating, but Velma specifically? Doesn't look good, does it, guys? They finally wrap up the romance arc entirely between Velma and Shaggy in episode 22 out of 26 of season 1, okay? Where Shaggy kind of asks Velma out and she says, no, let's be friends. Once again, hasn't he moved on like 4 episodes ago already? Whatever. Genuinely. Who gives a shit? Velma and Hot Dog Water. Hot Dog Water is a nickname for this character, Marcy. She's kind of weirdly a copy of Velma in many ways. Dude, they quite literally have the exact same color blocking, which in the cartoon world means a lot. They're both nerdy and involved in the mystery nonsense. What's notable about their relationship and about Marcy in general is that she does take Daphne's spot in the gang for a few episodes, so much so that the intro is changed to include her instead of Daphne. When Marcy is in Daphne's spot, she has the same animation where she is holding framed photo, and that photo, instead of being Fred, is now Velma. 2 + 2 is 4, and similar color scheme of them, lovers something something, you get it. So they're clearly coded to be like a thing, right? God damn it. Especially in that other new dimension at the very end where they were moved into a different timeline, right? Yeah, that happens if you haven't seen the show. And she also gets executed by a firing squad before that new timeline at the very end. Yeah, I'm not kidding. So a running gag with this character is that everyone keeps calling her Hot Dog Water. I think only Velma calls her Marcy. Regardless, her time in the gang is very short-lived. It's kind of a little bit weird because I don't know why she couldn't have stayed part of the group, because I understand that the curse and everything, there's supposed to be a certain amount of people, so 4 people, an animal, whatever. But she didn't have to be specifically part of the curse, right? She could have still been part of the hangouts from time to time, but they were kind of really weird about it. Anyway.
I gotta tell the gang.
That's my girl.
Now, Shaggy and Scooby. These two are always treated like a package deal. We all know that. They get more characterization than usual this time. Basically, they're usually portrayed as this insatiable duo, really hungry all the time. They just love eating. It's like their whole thing. I'd say that they're slightly more fleshed out in Mystery Inc., but they're still not getting a lot to work with, to be quite frank. I would put Velma and Fred at the very top of this pyramid. They definitely are the stars of this show. And then everyone else is on the lower level. They're all fun and interesting in one way or another, but they don't get as much complexity whatsoever. Shaggy does get that relationship with Velma, right? But because of how incredibly passive he is, and with the follow-up of Scooby suddenly not caring about Shaggy dating when he goes for someone other than Velma, it looks like Shaggy was just, there for it. Just there. He didn't act on any actual desire or have any goals. It's strange that it comes off this way when Velma got a lot more out of this storyline. His other relationships were not that significant, and his friendships or other entanglements with people did not get to become stronger or weaker over the course of the show. Well, aside the obvious breaks in the, gang's hangouts. Oh my god, dude. This stupid ass beard. I do want to say that Shaggy's parents do creep me the fuck out. First of all, they're embarrassed by Shaggy and by the association between them.
Try not to embarrass us, please. Better yet, just don't tell them your last name.
And that's incredibly rough, I would say. If your parents are embarrassed to be seen as your parents, that's kind of fucked, honestly. At the end of season 1, okay, they send Shaggy to a military school, okay, and Scooby to a farm. And yes, the implication is really weird there.
And we feel it best you go away for a while. And don't worry about Scooby. We found him a nice farm to live on.
Even the way that it's phrased is nuts. But you know what? You don't get to fully understand how bad it is until season 2. In episode 1 of season 2, we get to see how bad that farm actually is.
Come back here! I got a double-barreled surprise for you!
Yeah. When they see them later, the parents, they quite literally ask them,
Norville, what are you and Scooby doing out of prison in the pound? I mean, military school and the farm.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think I do have to mention that according to the show's lore, many of the inhabitants of Crystal Cove had a part of them that is kinder and better in some ambiguous way, locked away in this red room, which is like a separate dimension type deal. And you know, just put a pin in that. We will get back to it in the world building section, right? But I think comparing these parents to, for example, Velma's parents, right? Or specifically Velma's mom, you can see that they are still extraordinarily shitty. Like a new level of shitty. Not as bad as Fred's parents. But those ones are just, they will give a run for everyone's money. You know what I mean? Like, there's no use in comparing to them. Scooby here gets a lot of great one-liners, obviously, and a relationship with another dog named Nova.
Nobody moves! All that dog gets it.
And let me tell you what. I hate that. I hate that. It feels so fucking weird. So weird. I mean, man, listen. Scooby is very intelligent. He is on a level of a human, basically. Like his comprehension, the way that he speaks, all of that kind of stuff. And most of the other animals in the universe are not. This is explained within the lore. We'll talk about it again in the world building section. Even though Nova can't speak like Scooby does, it would be still okay, or at least not as jarring or as annoying or uncomfortable, if she had the same type of characterization as many other animals do in cartoons that are made about people, where they usually don't respond in the language that the people are speaking in, or in any language in particular, but they can communicate through their body language or them showing something. They are usually understanding exactly what the people are telling them. Facial expressions, responsive body language, pointing and nodding and stuff. You get it. It shows the comprehension and ability to understand what's going on in a way that is comparable to a human being. However, the difference between Scooby and Nova is not just that Scooby can speak to people. Nova is jarringly stupider than Scooby or anybody else in that cast. I mean, she's arguably even less aware of what's going on around her than animals that I've been acquainted with in my life. There are some animals that are a lot, smarter than others, whatever. It's different levels of intelligence, whatever. She seems to understand less than an average dog. Or at least my dog. My dog is very quick to pick up what is being said to her. So it feels really, really fucking weird that they're dating. Sorry to say. It's just odd as balls. They kind of just wrote her in like some kind of toy or something. It's really, really weird, honestly. Daphne. Daphne got minimal depth in this iteration of the story. Sorry. It's just how it is, Diva. I don't know what to tell you. She's all about Fred and relationships and not much else. There's also a few creepy things about her family, and not everything gets resolved because of the curse being lifted. A couple of things do get resolved. For example, at least I think they do. We don't get like a direct confirmation, but we can assume so. In any case, her dad's name is Bart, or Barty as they call him. Freddy, Barty, a little bit too close, but this is a bit of a stretch, so I'm gonna let it go. Fred also kind of looks like her dad a little bit, so it's just overall a little strange. What does creep me out the most, though, is the fact that Daphne's mom gets locked away for months.
Every time Mother starts sleeping in the backyard treehouse, we hire a doctor or somebody else with authority. Then we lock her away for a few months.
That's a great idea, Daph.
Well, it's this tidbit, but in combination with another part of her family's lore, which is the fact that sometimes her mom screams and tries to run away.
For 2 weeks now, he runs screaming down the hall and ends up sleeping in the yard. Is that normal?
My mom was doing that for a while, but it just turned out to be really bad gas, according to the men who took her away.
Okay. This being brought up in the same episode where Fred gets weirdly controlling, like to a freak degree, including a full day schedule and him choosing clothes for her to wear. And speaking of Daphne and Fred's relationship, coincidentally, just coincidence, the only interest or the only storyline that Daphne is afforded here, we gotta discuss in detail this relationship because it's quite central to the show's arc. So the series starts with Daphne chasing Fred. Okay, and Fred seemingly not being that interested. It's kind of a similar thing as with Velma and Shaggy.
Wonder what it would be like to get such a romantic present.
Oh, come on, Daphne. You know you don't care about that girly stuff. That's why we're such good friends.
It's portrayed as him just being way too into traps and being kind of hyper-focused on one thing. It is implied that there's some kind of autistic parallel there. It's not outright said, but this is what a lot of people speculated too, as far as I understand. Kind of like that guy that's really into trains kind of thing, you know? Having a hard time understanding dynamics, things like that, right? So it's treated this way, at least until episode 6 in season 1, where Fred is suddenly capable of being interested in someone, where we see, God, this beard is gonna fuck up my voice too, because it's just like tickling my mouth, getting everywhere. Yuck. Anyway, it's all kind of treated this way until he meets Alice May. Suddenly, he's capable of going to prom without having to be dragged there, without having someone else buy prom tickets for him and ask him to go with them. The difference between his behavior with Daphne and with Alice May is like night and day, dude.
Besides the fact that she's super nice and her hair smells like peaches and sometimes I get lost in her eyes, going to the prom with a friend will be more fun than a date anyway, right?
This is never addressed, by the way, I'm just gonna put it out there. At least not in a way that I'm addressing it here, where we're actually kind of noticing the fact that there are some people that Fred can act more proactive around, right? It's really weird because this show just keeps treating it like Fred is just oblivious. If you remove the whole Alice May thing, it does work. Like, the narrative does keep up with itself. But with that episode? Yeah, no. This dynamic between Fred and Daphne does lead to one of the most fun episodes in my opinion, which is episode 7 of season 1, where Hex Girls make an appearance again. And honestly, they are undoubtedly the most iconic side characters of the franchise. This episode gives us Goth Daphne, whose outfit, while slayful, is a little much, just a smidge. The iconic...
I'm a guy no more. Daphne, now I need to talk to her.
Daphne's gone. Call me Crush.
Darn it, lady, I'm serious. Where is she? I need to tell you something and I need you to listen. I'm not a guy anymore.
What?
And of course...
I'm a guy no more. I'm coming, Daphne!
This cracks me up every single time. Good on them for writing something as funny while still being age appropriate for this show, the type of show that they're writing. It's an impeccable performance, great writing, it's all around so wonderful.
Call me a non-man if you want. A caring un-guy? Whatever the street slang is.
Call me a non-man if you like. You know, just fighting against toxic masculinity and fighting for gender rights, you know what I mean? King. Anyway, basically, this relationship is kind of a mess, honestly, because after he has that epiphany, right? Which is stated so clearly in that episode, in episode 7, we go back to episodes where Fred is like acting like a stranger to Daphne, not without some really funny moments which I think do work, like this one.
Freddie, did you notice my outfit?
I don't even understand that question.
But then in episode 11, they have a fight, I guess? Honestly, dude, I think this is quite forced, I'm gonna be real with you. I understand the tension between Velma and Shaggy, but it makes no sense, and by them, I mean the entire gang, not just Daphne and Fred, actually. It makes no sense that Daphne and Fred, who just seemingly figured out their differences, are also now talking. Not to each other, nor to anyone else in the group. I mean, it genuinely just makes no fucking sense. In episode 13, they're all back together, but Fred can't say the word date. Can't ask Daphne out on a date, that is. It just makes no sense because he's been over this like 3 times already. It's one thing if he hasn't had this epiphany moment yet. It's one thing if this hasn't been addressed or been addressed only halfway. But we've addressed it so many times already and we're still on it. Like, girl, give me a break. So around episode 23, we get into this Fred being scarily controlling territory, okay? And at the end of episode 24, they're engaged to be married. Huh? What? Fred is going through his daddy issues and decides that that's the perfect time to pop the question, I guess. I mean, immediately. In the next episode, literally the next episode, dude, Fred is acting distant and confusing again. He's honestly acting like he's forgotten that they're engaged.
A couple of months from now, we'll be engaged.
Uh-huh.
I want to break the news to everyone just right. Fred, are you even listening to me?
What on the fuck of the earth do you mean, Fred Jones? And you know, it's probably partially what it is because he's kind of slowly descending into this madness, this flavor of madness, as you might recall. In the last episode of that season, Fred finds out that the picture he had of his mom is actually not his mom, and that his mayor dad is actually not his biological father. Then he finds out that the freak of Crystal Cove is his fake mayor dad as well, and he vows to go find his biological parents while the gang gets separated by their parents. Fred straight up leaves for God knows how long. I'm guessing that it's at least a few months. Clearly doesn't try to even reach out to anyone in the gang when he comes back looking like this. Like this. Daphne has already moved on with Taylor Lautner. Sorry, Baylor Hotner.
If it makes you feel better, buy it for your butt. Be a green trendsetter. Green Jean, yeah.
And doesn't want to do mystery solving whatsoever.
You should check out my back abs.
I like to call them babs. Fred.
So Fred progressively loses it, and just in general, not only Daphne related, honestly. However, his behavior does get real weird when it comes to Daphne, including him using her hair on a teddy bear, kidnapping Daphne with the entirety of her bed.
Fred?
Surprised?
What are you doing?
And even wishing that he put a tracking device on her when he had the chance. They make up, of course, I guess, in part due to the fact that Hotner turned out to be the man-baby clown.
You wouldn't like me while I'm crying.
We don't like you now!
Guy with amazingly super awesome abs.
Yeah. In part also due to Fred pursuing Daphne. Now, before we get into Fred, our resident 300 traumas in one character guy, I gotta get back to Daphne's sisters for just a moment. So she has like 5 sisters, and all of them are high achievers, astronauts, surgeons, generals, that kind of stuff. Now, when the entity that corrupted the town was defeated, a lot of characters were shown to be different, with some of their personalities and lives adjusted to what they would be like without the evil entity's influence. While many characters were just nicer, or sane, like Fred's parents seemingly are in that timeline, Daphne's sisters are now underachievers. Strange. Okay? How is it that just for these young women, the result of not being plagued by this ancient evil means that they are not successful anymore? Let's say that this is because in this timeline, they're not held up to this insanely strict standard that their parents have set up for them, like in the original timeline. Wouldn't it just mean that statistically at least one of them would still be doing something similar? Really strict standards in terms of pressure that comes without does not compare in effectiveness to someone who's self-sufficient and self-motivated. Usually only people who have it in them in that sense succeed to that degree, with many people who had parents like this who were hounding them the entire time becoming kind of sheepish and prone to inconsistent efforts when out of, direct parental supervision. So, sounds like nonsense to me, to be honest. And I really dislike the messaging here, especially because it's put into kids' media. I feel like it has a pretty bad undertones there, and even though this is a throwaway background thing, they did put all that effort to actually put that into the ending. Could have just left it as is, or not even addressed it at all, yet we're here. Yet we're fucking here. The only female character that doesn't get this nonsense treatment is Velma. Even she has that treatment to a degree, especially in the, Shaggy subplot situation. She's just getting the nerd girl variety of this, I guess. Anyway, Fred. Okay, first and foremost, I want to say that I do love this iteration of Fred Jones. Even though I'm not Daphne and I would not tolerate this type of nonsense, even in hypothetical terms, I'm not gonna lie, even as a friend, I wouldn't. I am not a particularly patient person. That controlling BS, it's not cute. But outside of it, I think that he is very well written. Fred and Velma are 2 characters in this show that got to be flawed in a way that makes so much sense for them. It wasn't like passive negative traits like with Shaggy or Daphne, and they also got to really shine specifically because of that. Fred has the worst parents out of the gang, and that should tell you something.
No!
because Shaggy's parents are part of the focus group here, okay? In season 1, we only get to meet Fred's adoptive father. Fred's adoptive dad is also named Fred, so because there's also another dad involved, I'm going to call him Mayor Dad from now on, which I think is appropriate since Fred calls him that. Fred clearly grew up neglected as hell. His biological parents abandoned him, while Mayor Dad was always acting like Fred was a nuisance of some sort. Mayor Dad is somewhat charismatic but distant. That's kind of his characterization, I would say. He's always upset at Fred's obsession with traps and mysteries. It's a very similar behavior to all the other parents, so it's not special per se. Fred constantly tries to bond with his dad and can never get what he actually wants from him.
But I need your help. Are we bonding? Look at me. I'm shaking.
Oh, honey. Fred also doesn't seem to be very good at reading because he's been working on that Traps magazine for years.
What's that?
No, don't. Don't.
Traps Illustrated? Freddy!
This is just a joke, obviously, but at some point in episode 23, we find out that Fred grew up so lonely and so neglected that he's made friends with the taxidermy heads in his house. Like, he gave them names, and obviously it's pretty normal for a child to do something like that, to just like name things in the house or to have imaginary friends, but he's definitely got a lot more specific and detailed scenarios in his head that imply that he was left on his own for a little bit too much.
Knock it off, Tyler!
Fred, you know that moose?
I spend a lot of time alone. He's a good listener.
It turns out at the end of the season that they were looking for Mayor Dad because he's the creature that they were looking for. He saves Fred but gets arrested. In season 2, Fred is honestly even more confused and more neglected than before. This time he is, I assume, 18, so it's not as bad as when he was a kid, obviously. However, he didn't have to worry about taking care of himself in terms of just having a house, things like that. His house becomes a mess.
Like Freddy, have you been here all by yourself since your not dad went to jail?
By myself? Please. I've got Mr. Trapples to keep me company.
Okay.
He also tends to freeze entirely whenever he's trying to suppress memories or trying to not record a memory in real time. Like in that library episode where they all got accidentally high, or drugged rather, and Daphne made out with Shaggy because she thought it was Fred. He just froze for a while until he started to act like nothing happened at all. A lot of really concerning coping mechanisms, we can say that, right? He even talks about traps to his therapist, by the way. Yeah. Fred's biological parents come back into the picture in episode 4 of season 2. Immediately, they give you a bad vibe. Immediately.
That's right, Fred.
We're your parents.
And we're back.
Weirdly close to each other while having no semblance of human personalities. Right, Brad? Right, Judy. Over and over and over again. Right, Brad? Right, Judy. Right, Brad? Right, Judy. God, these two quite literally try to kill Fred multiple times. And obviously, in that new timeline that happens in the very end of the series, they do have a completely different attitude and behavior than they did the entire time that we've known them. For obvious reasons. Again, I'll explain more in the world building, but God, you know that time when you just love your kids so much you try to blow them up with a rocket launcher? Yeah, that happens to me all the time, actually.
Incoming!
Regardless, a lot of these quirks of his lead to a lot of great comedy, and in many instances make him a lot more likable, because if he wouldn't have all these quirks that work for him, his controlling tendencies, especially in those few episodes with Daphne, would have really made him unlikable to a ridiculous degree. In any case, truly this is an iconic portrayal of this character that definitely changed the game and created a new bar for Scooby-Doo and for Fred himself, because he did used to be kind of a nothing burger character for years. So good for him. that he got something here. Let's talk about the original Mystery Inc. people, the gang, the original, well, not technically the original, but the ones that were before Mystery Inc. gang that we're dealing with, right? Before Scooby Gang, there were a few groups of mystery solvers over thousands of years. It's part of this whole lore that we will discuss in the world building portion of the video, but the most recent predecessor of the Scooby Gang has a lot of characters that are quite significant to the series. So let's start with Angel Dynamite, aka Cassidy Williams. Arguably the hottest character on the cast with the best color scheme. Cassidy pretends to be someone who has never been on the mystery team to help the new mystery team. It's unclear how and why they started hanging out, honestly. It's really weird that they were hanging out at all, because Angel, she's a radio DJ and the gang just happens to be at the radio station as if it's their headquarters. I don't know. Cassidy's wardrobe is primarily referencing the 70s and 80s, which is not surprising since it's definitely a reference to the DJ scene of the time that blossomed in Chicago and the like. What I find really fascinating about her character is that she managed to still be a decent human being, even though she's also part of that gang that had to deal with the entity and lost a part of themselves, specifically the part that makes them kinder or more understanding, empathetic, things like that. In one of the episodes in season 2, she actually dies while saving the gang, which pissed me off at first because I was like, pissed me off, but also surprised me because I was like, whoa, damn, the stakes are a lot higher in this show than I thought they were gonna be. So it was very, very surprising to me. However, on top of it all, I did feel really angry because I was like, well, bitch, just read it in my eyes what I'm thinking about this, you know? Regardless, it's fine because in this parallel timeline, or the new timeline that is created at the end that erased the previous timeline, she is alive and well and is totally happy and whatever. Marcy, Hot Dog Water, also has a brutal death scene, so it's just really strange, honestly, to see that in Scooby-Doo, but I do think it worked really well, and especially since they did kind of walk it back, but in a pretty satisfying way. I don't think that they ruined anything because they walked it back, which is rare. I think she should have ended up with the principal of the school instead of Mr. E.
You're very robust for a woman, like those female wrestlers on TV, except not so veiny. We're losing him.
This doom buggy ain't gonna die on Angel Dynamite's watch. No CPR?
There's no mouth.
Just blow, woman.
I did it. I gave him life. I feel so alive. We have to drown something so I can bring it back to life again.
No time.
That's my opinion. That's my opinion, okay? Don't come for me. Or do, I don't care.
Robust?
Anyway, Mr. E. Mr. E is interesting mostly because of his relationship with Professor Pericles. By the way, I don't know how to pronounce that properly. I keep on pronouncing it differently every single time I try to pronounce Pericles. Professor Pericles is probably the most corrupted member of all 4 people and an animals groups that were influenced by the entity. Mr. E found Pericles when he was injured, and both of them were quite young. At the end, their relationship is quite tragic and sad, because before the timeline reset where everything is different, right? Pericles quite literally has the upper hand over Mr. E, doesn't let him make his own decisions anymore because he implanted some kind of thing into him that releases poison whenever he presses a button. It's very disturbing if you think about it, the fact that they went from being this Shaggy Scooby type of duo to this.
A little venom is released.
Very compelling though, I'm not gonna lie. This bird is definitely fucking diabolical, like crazy bird. And the funniest part is that he's like got this German accent, and it's implied that he was a Nazi, I guess. So this is why he's like not getting the same type of redemption as everybody else, because I guess that his evilness was already there before the entity got to him. So Brad and Judy Childs, the parents of Fred, these two, they're like the strangest people ever, dude. As far as I understand, this stuff gets amended in the final timeline. But that's speculation on my part, okay? We didn't get that much of an explanation as to how much of everyone's personalities changed. Regardless, Brad and Judy, they have a strange codependency with each other while still suffering from misogynistic nonsense. Like in an episode after they got plastic surgery to look like Fred and old Daphne, to trick Fred and the gang into revealing where the planetary disk is, they consistently bicker because of Brad basically calling Judy a hag. There's a lot of Freudian nonsense in there. Judy turning into Daphne but an older version, and Brad straight up getting surgery to look like Fred is just so delightfully weird. Anyway, so let's cover side characters real quick in a rapid fire. Vincent Van Gogh. Van Gogh is Shaggy and Scooby's favorite horror movie actor who appears multiple times throughout the 2 seasons. His lines are very funny, including a weird recurring thing about him tinkling.
All this excitement has made me need to tinkle.
All right then.
I feel another tinkle coming on. I've never been more frightened in my life. And I didn't tinkle. I held it. Like a man, you...
Sheriff Bronson, of course, as I mentioned earlier, a really fucking funny character. He ends up with a new mayor in town, which, good for him, of course, but also, he's just so delightfully weird, including little tidbits like him writing "nut" on his notepad when interviewing someone, or...
they're so geeky.
How long will you be teaching at the high school, Dr. Spartan?
Right, Kachinga?
Quite. Not putting on a bearskin and antlers.
That's what savages wear.
Now, when it comes to the ideological messaging of the show, just like many pieces of media, this show demonstrates that making apolitical and or unbiased shows is impossible. Just like with its sister show, the 2011 Looney Tunes, Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. was definitely steered and supervised by someone who believes that people are inherently bad, misunderstands basic political concepts like socialism, and has a pretty outdated grasp on issues like misogyny. For example, there's this character named Ernesto. God, this fucking beard is so itchy. He is a side character that's an activist. He is introduced in the university episode. He is portrayed to literally look like Che Guevara, okay? 1 to 1. But he ends up being this hack who is a capitalist. When activists are shown protesting, they just scream, "Down with it," and now, without any specifics, which is pretty funny considering that they are trying to pull from Che Guevara's efforts. It's just like you have to know nothing about his politics or about that period of history to think that he would be vague about the demands or something, or that the people who had the same ideas as him or were following in his footsteps would have vague requests. You have got to know absolutely nothing about that period of time to imply that. Regardless, just Che Guevara being a wishy-washy capitalist. Can you fucking imagine? Just saying anything at this point, whatever. You don't have to even like his politics. It's just kind of inaccurate, so it's really strange. Gets even funnier when we get those Russian characters in season 2, episode 2. This guy, this curator whose last name is Vronsky, and his assistant named Anna Arkadyevna, which is a reference to Anna Karenina, Leo Tolstoy's novel, obviously. The Vronsky guy turns out to be the one who was stealing, and his last phrase literally makes no sense whatsoever.
Finally, I was to be a rich capitalist with all my loot. If it wasn't for you decadent bourgeois teenagers...
Finally, I was to be a rich capitalist. If it wouldn't be for you decadent bourgeois teenagers. Huh? So he wants to be a rich capitalist, but his insults include calling someone decadent and bourgeois? What system of values are we operating under here? I just don't understand. I'm telling you, we're genuinely on some stupid hours here. Overall, though, the biggest win for this show is its humor and writing. It genuinely works. I'll sprinkle in some clips out of context here and there for you to get a taste. Just remember what it was like if you've seen this show a while ago.
Looks like your ghost girl's building herself a man posse.
Zoinks!
Unless you want a mouthful of spanker.
Cooler, Daddy. Won't go be here anymore. I want to go home.
And one last thing. Hatecraft and Ellis Yowie when? Yeah.
Who'd want to threaten his life? Besides me.
Do boys like it when you tell them what to do?
Of course they do.
You guys, I think my very expensive camera is breaking or is broken. That's great. Let's start with the main character design and outfits, of course. First of all, these characters got like a slight update, but still kept all of their iconic outfits. Designers clearly made everything sharper, right? Just take a look at them side by side. Another big change, at least in my opinion, is that their eyes used to be black. Here, we can see that they have changed that and they added colorful eyes. So for Daphne, instead of a black circle, it's just like a purple circle. I think this style fits the vibe of the show, and I don't think that the changes are drastic enough to even dwell on them that much, to be honest. Regardless, Daphne. We have to start with Daphne because she is the resident fashionista. I wouldn't say that she says that it's her interest. As we know, her and Shaggy don't really get many interests in this show in general, but her outfit is very fashionable for the time that she was created, that she was designed. So it seems like it is an implication that she is one of those mod girls, right? 1969 saw the premiere of Scooby Doo, and if you know anything, and I mean absolutely anything, about fashion in the late 1960s, you'd probably recognize basically every trend from the late 60s in her outfit. Color blocking, miniskirts, this design is honestly just so iconic. We get a few outfits for Daphne in Mystery Inc., like for example, her prom dress. I think it's a bit boring, to be honest, and I don't quite understand the point of that semi-transparent panel at the bottom. I guess that it's supposed to be something to spice it up, but the look itself is just meh. The only thing that I do like about it is the opera gloves, but that's not even that big of a part of the outfit. So her concert outfit, however, when she replaced one of the Hex girls, is really cool. It's a little bit crazy for a kids show though, like come on, we gotta be serious. But she does look really great, and I especially love when characters like these that don't really get an outfit change that often get a full outfit change and a hair and accessories change. It's fantastic. I always love to see something new like that. The high pony is absolutely fantastic. I love it on her. When it comes to Daphne's parents, they're basically Fred and Daphne but aged up. I don't mean that in terms of their personality. I mean specifically looks-wise. Her mom's hat is great though. Let's be real here. She also gets this nightgown, which may be inspired by this one from one of the old iterations of the show. When it comes to Velma's look is also very 60s. All of them are, but you know, sometimes things change slightly in terms of the cut of whatever sweater, skirt they're wearing, and it changes the entire vibe. In this case, she's still the same type of Velma, a classic warm color story and a classic turtleneck sweater. There's one detail that they have added that wasn't there previously, which is this barrettes on the sides of her head, just like little bows. I think they're pretty cute. I don't think there's any problem with that. I don't know if it's controversial for people who are Scooby heads, but her prom dress, by the way, is quite literally this. Just a longer skirt. I don't know what happened here. I just don't know what happened here. And like, whatever, I guess. I don't really love it, obviously. But also, we get to see this outfit in a bit of a different light when it is used in this episode, and I just don't quite understand why they didn't let her go to prom wearing this. Maybe it's part of her journey, character arc or something like that, that she's not as affected by what she's wearing or whatever. I'm not sure in this case. I think that regardless, this outfit is just meh. Not loving it, but I think that it's okay for Velma because she's not really that obsessed with latest trends or anything like that. It's not part of her character, so it's totally fine. Shaggy is basically just like a hippie, but not really. Like, he has a bit of a flare in his pants that are slightly baggy, just slightly. His shirt is very baggy as well. I think that the reason why there's still a 60s flair is because when he was designed, he was supposed to be somebody who is adjacent to the hippies, but not quite, because he's not actually involved in anything much. I think that he's supposed to be kind of lazy, not interested in all of those things. That's why there's still this flavor of that era, because if you are kind of lazy or you don't give a fuck about fashion, you you would be buying whatever is popular in store, not because you yourself are seeking it out, but because that's how trends work. They kind of permeate every single thing in the store to the point where you just end up wearing what is popular since you don't really care and you're just grabbing whatever is in front of you.
And you select, I don't know, that lumpy blue sweater, for instance. Trickled on down into some tragic casual corner where you no doubt fished it out of some clearance bin. You're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
More laid back, less so bohemian kind of thing, right? Now, he gets a pair of horrible pants that Velma kind of makes him wear. I absolutely hate these pants. I do, but we're supposed to hate it, obviously. Glad to see that they figured out that they are not meant for each other. They were supposed to be written like that, I'm sure. But another notable look is, of course, his prom look, which is kind of a bit strange, but good for him. Like, it's fun, I guess. He's leaning into more of his parents' vibe for this.
What are you and Scooby doing out of prison in the pound? I mean, military school and the farm.
Yeah. Shaggy's parents are basically the only set of parents that don't have the same or similar style as their child. They don't even have a similar color scheme, which I think is very telling. They don't want anything to do with him. You know, we talked about it already, but it's definitely very evident in the design as well. Daphne, Fred, Velma, they all have parents that in one way or another share their interests, even though they are not happy about the mystery solving that they are all involved in. But Shaggy's parents are snobby art people, a type of parent that would like an overachiever for a kid. This dynamic is evident in the writing, of course, with the main issue in Shaggy's family being their disappointment in him, their dislike of association between them. Even their house is mostly done in the same pastel turquoise and blues, while Shaggy and Scooby's room is drastically different, looking like it's been transplanted from a different house altogether. So with Fred, just like with Daphne, basically he got the popular guy outfit. This isn't that complicated, it's just this ascot, which was really popular at the time. They were all the rage, basically. Specifically for people who liked mod fashion, of course, because there's always going to be different strands of fashion preferences in every era, but this is for those people that were into mod fashion. Both Fred and Daphne get a new outfit in the episode about this pheromone lady that calls herself Aphrodite. She's not Aphrodite, obviously, but this is the outfit that they get. This is just this flower child situation. Both outfits are very typical for the time that they're referencing, but nonetheless, they're cute and I really like to see some change up. I wish they had more change ups here and there, but at the same time, I understand why they don't because it is kind of like an iconic look, yada yada yada. A team uniform is introduced in season 1 that is created by Fred. I don't think it's that bad, but I do understand why people were looking at them funny because it is quite strange. However, considering what people wear usually in Crystal Cove, it's not that much of a stretch. It's not that different, really. So I don't understand why they were all up their ass about it. Do you know what I mean? Fred's parents, once again, very much rich, like 1967, 1969 type of parents. I did want to mention Fred's mom's makeup because the makeup, that combination, that light turquoise, this pastel turquoise, and this gorgeous, gorgeous peach, this like light orange, the combination, it just hits so hard, and it is so off the time as well that it kind of just immediately places it in time. The Hex Girls. Hex Girls are iconic for more reasons than one. You probably already know about them. In this iteration of the franchise, they get all new outfits multiple times actually. They kind of take a tour through all the different subgenres of goth fashion. The classic look is still a great take on a grungy and glam goth outfit, while the new ones explore, for example, some Victorian goth. Obviously blend different types of influences, but the specific outfit that people oftentimes refer to as like Harley Quinn outfit, which it isn't because this one predates the Birds of Prey Harley Quinn look or Suicide Squad Harley Quinn. So this outfit is actually straight up cyber goth, 100%. The goggles, the colors, the corset, the pigtails. There's multiple pictures that I put here because they just kind of work better, like this one, for example. Come on now. This is straight up what this look is referencing. So they quite literally just picked different types of gothic fashion and went with it, you know, just ran with it, which I think is quite fun actually. Instead of just doing the same type of gothic look or grungy goth thing, they try to mix it up a little bit. We also see them in a Dia de los Muertos makeup and matching gothic attire. That one slaps as well. You can see what it's referencing right here. I think these outfits are quite, honestly, they're well done. Like, look at this shit. This is so fun. I think it's also a great outfit for performance. I don't know how culturally it works, honestly. If this is like not what you're supposed to be wearing it for or whatever it is, I have no idea, but it does look cool. We also get to see them in like civilian outfits for the first time. A lot more casual for some of them than for others. It's kind of surprising to see them wearing something so non-gothic all of a sudden, but regardless, Cassidy Williams, aka Angel Dynamite, right here. This outfit is a killer. Probably, like, honestly, top 3 outfits. Maybe it's number 1. Maybe it's number 1. We have to be serious. We have to be serious. I have already mentioned my love for Cassidy's color story. It's just little pops of red and yellow with this chartreuse. God, it just fucking hits so hard, dude. It just hits so hard. And this outfit is more of like late 60s, early 70s even, inspired by the music scene of the time. It reminds me of disco artists like the Sister Sledge group. I know that they are late 70s, but this outfit is just like, I don't know, screams 70s to me. Just take a look at the material. Take a look at the photo. My favorite part of her look is obviously her makeup, because it's this red lip, this bold red lip with this chartreuse on the lid and a turquoise liner like Diva. Come on, it just hits. It just hits. It's so beautiful. I do love the headphones, especially like this little antenna that's at the top. That's so fun. I'm still mad about, like, every time I remember this, I'm mad about the radio station being blown up. It was beautiful. I also want to talk about, obviously, this look, which she looks great here, but this is a very typical spy cat suit outfit, so I don't really feel like it's that special, obviously. Still looks great though, and it's fun to see in this show. She also starts wearing some earrings in season 2. Her makeup, like, they switch up the liner to be just black instead of turquoise. This outfit is really cool as well. I really like it too. Very bold. I really like the color choices in this show, honestly. Marcy was initially designed to be the evil Velma character. For whatever reason, we don't really have any info on that. We don't really know why she was designed that way in the beginning. I assume that maybe she wasn't gonna be a character that returns very often. She does have this storyline where she is the baddie in one of the episodes in season 1. So it kind of makes sense that maybe they were planning on taking the character somewhere else. So the color story is quite literally a reference to a hot dog. However, it just so happens, just coincidentally, it is also the same color scheme, slightly different shades, obviously, but still in the same color family as Velma's design. I do want to bring up a costume that Marcy wears in one of the episodes.
For if you do. Hello, Velma.
Is this a full body suit? Not to be like this, but goddamn, where did you hide all that from? Like, how? I guess this is for logistics department to figure out, because I don't understand how this is possible. Some side characters I want to mention in quick succession. Alice May. I mostly want to show this outfit here because it reminds me of Scara Screams from Monster High, and because of this outfit she wears at the end of season 1 when she blows shit up and confuses everyone as to where she's getting the weapons from. Once again, the outfit is a little bit too crazy for a kid show. Just a smidge, Diva. That's just a smidge. And the thing is,
like, where does she keep getting these weapons? That outfit has no pockets!
yeah. The new mayor, killer color combo. You can't tell me shit. This color combo is so... First of all, I do love this color combo in general. But second of all, it's just such a great choice for a character. She stands out immediately in a good way. We also get this principal who's basically just me when I have my hair long. That's just Lisa. Straight up. Some of the more interesting and or weird perpetrators that we should kind of mention and talk about. Baba Yaga. This design, I really like the cupola At the top, I really like the folklore being mixed in here because I do love Baba Yaga, and I think that her lore is so interesting. Her location, the fact that it's like a house, a hut that's on chicken legs, massive chicken legs. It can just turn around and give you attitude. The house itself can give you attitude. I don't know, something about it is just so fantastic. And she flies in like a barrel with a broom where she kind of like uses the broom to move the air around her or some shit like that. Just such an interesting character, creature, mythological person that is really interesting to see this in this show, especially because the design is pretty good. Even like the 3 eyes on one side, like obviously it's not really eyes per se, it's kind of like windows, but definitely stylized in a way that looks like an eye. Just looks so weird and creepy. 3 eyes on the side, you know what I mean? The little girl who kept on spitting, that girl was so fucking weird, dog.
Parents want me to spend a few weeks in high school to help develop social skill.
The actor puts her all into it, honestly. Que horrifico. Also a very elaborate design that's pretty interesting. Clown man baby. Clown man baby, god, such an annoying ass character, such an annoying ass villain, but at the same time so beautifully weird, puzzlingly bizarre, so inspirational, so gross.
No exit here. Is that dirty diaper bomb? Where?
It's everything that you could ever want. The great Scooby dress, the wild brood guys.
Cool it, Daddy. We tried taking the high road.
The wild brood guys, real fun. The headless creature looks gross as hell. It does leave an impression, you know? But gross. So gross. Genuinely like one of those, ugh. The Freak of Crystal Cove is really something too, but gets even weirder conceptually speaking when you remember who is wearing it. Fred's dad being inside of that suit just makes everything so much more puzzling, and I guess this is the same conversation as with Marcy or Hot Dog Water. I guess you can make your body a different shape, and I don't mean, because the thing is, it's obvious that you can make it a different shape if this suit is bigger than you are, but how the fuck do you do that in the opposite direction? Like, Freak of Crystal Cove is so much smaller than Fred's dad. He's like lanky, skeletal, not similar to his dad at all. So I think that an award for the highest creep factor has to go to the Gatorsburg family, because it's not just the design. Well, of course it's the design, but it's the way they move. You know what I mean? The design, however, makes it look like they are wearing human suits, human skin suits. Oh. Even after they reveal, it looks like their skin is stretched over them. Also, I wanna mention El Fuchi. That's it. Just El Fuchi. Just that El Fuchi exists. His name is El Fuchi. And he is a skunk with a funk. His name is El Fuchi. I don't know, something about El Fuchi it just sounds so right, god. Anyway, locations. So, locations in this show look beautiful, but mostly because of coloring and texture choices, okay? Not any intricate design in the locations themselves. Just take my favorite location, Cassidy's radio station. It is undeniably gorgeous, but it is also more compact and filled with more objects than most other spaces. Fred's house, Daphne's house are both pretty and vast and empty, kind of like EA built houses. I mean, you know exactly what I mean, Diva. I think you can see it most in Daphne's room. It's huge, it's empty, made beautiful by the texture on the walls and those bold color choices. But there's not much to write home about when it comes to design, because not a lot of things are designed in it. It's just mostly vibes. Speaking of Daphne and rooms, her sister's room, her doctor's sister, okay? A hip bone painting on the wall with slightly red splatters, a full-on skeleton in the room. Honestly, what the hell is her issue?
Can you give us a description of the creature?
I certainly can, Thelma.
Velma.
Don't care.
I don't know. I don't want to even get into that. Velma's house and Shaggy's house look a bit more interesting. Velma's room is a bit smaller and wins in terms of feeling like a room that's been filled because of that. It feels like it's a lived-in space, right? Shaggy's room has a really interesting layout and benefits from the messy look that creators were trying to achieve. The best room in Shaggy's house is definitely the kitchen though. It's a bit flat because of everything being in the same color or two colors basically. However, the patterns do make up for it, you know? Once again, the fact that it's a bit smaller helps quite a bit. Overall, the more detailed scenes stand out just so much more than others because of this over-reliance on texture and color in other scenes. I do think that it's not a bad thing that a lot of design is simplified for the sake of letting those other bold choices breathe, but it definitely affects how much can be said about these, things, about these designs. And there's only a few objects that really jumped out at me while watching, which the first one is, of course, the locket that Daphne finds in the first episode. It becomes an iconic part of the show, an iconic symbol of the mystery gang, right? Replaces just this looking glass that is usually used for investigation cases. It's good to have a little bit of an updated thing that is more unique to this show. Another one is planispheric disc. Probably the one object that really shines in terms of design. However, it is inspired by something in real life. Like one of the things that really stand out about it is that to read something, you had to line the pieces up for the light to pass through in a certain way. It just looked really pretty and really fun and interesting, The planispheric disc is definitely inspired by astrolabes, these astronomical instruments that were used starting in classical era. This is a really interesting instrument that is basically a two-dimensional version of the armillary sphere. It can measure altitudes of celestial bodies, it can be used to identify planets, stars, etc. It makes a lot of sense that they went for this design because it just works so well with the whole Nibiru thing and all of the other references to lining up of the planets. Looks really cool and low-key made me want to watch a whole documentary on astrolabes just to see if there is one, what it's all about and what kind of functions it can fulfill, because it's kind of a crazy amount of things that you can calculate by using it, and I'm curious how accurate it is, So artworks in the art episode and Andy Warhol. I just had to have a whole section here to discuss the artworks in the background, the designs in the background, because it's just so fun. One of my favorite episodes is called Art of Darkness. It is in season 2 and it is the 6th episode of that season. It features a character named Randy Warsaw, which is obviously a take on Andy Warhol, and the artworks at the gallery reflect that. We have this sculpture reminiscent of Warhol's Campbell Soup works, the wheel that is a reference to one of the first ready-made artworks that was created by Marcel Duchamp, a take on Damien Hirst's The Physical Impossibility of Death in the Mind of Someone Living, but with a ladder instead of a shark in it. There's also a somewhat Jackson Pollock-esque painting in the background. Another artwork that seems to be a reference to Roy Lichtenstein's work, which was inspired by comics of the 50s, a pile of meat with a rat on it. And some of you are probably thinking, a bunch of meat, really? And while I share your sentiment, the first thing that every uni tells you about, wow, oh my god, is this even looking good? Damn. If my hair is all over the place, just ignore it at this point because I've been filming for so fucking long. Anyway, when any university gives out spaces, art studio spaces to their students, they always say, no meat, no blood. And thank God for that, because even with all those warnings, there's still somebody who's gonna try it. There's still somebody who's gonna fucking try it. I'm just saying. Also, there's this artwork that Fred's parents look at that has both a mousetrap and a mug with a dad on it. A foreshadowing, perhaps? Just saying. More importantly, this scene has a band in it called Sunday Around Noonish. It's quite literally a take on a band that Andy Warhol himself managed and had working at his factory, studio called The Factory, and their name was the Velvet Underground. The main singer of the band in Scooby Doo looks exactly like the singer from the Velvet Underground. Her name is Nico. Singer from Scooby Doo, her name is Eco. And when Scooby Doo replaces her for one of the songs or one of the performances, he goes by Frico. Outside of the gallery, there's this little Mondrian painting on the gallery.
I shall name you Beef!
Beef.
Okay. Another character design in this episode looks like Twiggy. Twiggy famously was also in those circles. And I fucking love that song. Unfortunately for me, we already made fun of me for that in the art direction section, but I'm just saying.
Time for my masterpiece.
By the way, reminds you of anything?
Give him to me.
And also these outfits of hipsters and rich people slap here. Anyway, just like many of the shows that I've discussed, where characters get a new outfit almost every single episode, Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. is quite conservative with the amount of outfits that these characters get, and minimalistic when it comes to character design. The design is very effective, don't get me wrong, but it is not as interested in details and fashion as self-expression as some other shows are. It is maybe also due to the fact that some other shows expect to be making toys and they are kind of pushing towards that, towards creating more of like different variations. I don't know. Regardless.
Just me and my Scoob. Just me and my Scoob. Just me. Just me and my Scoob. I doubt that she's gonna wanna spend too much time with us. She is a type of baby that likes to do her own business. See, she's already planning an escape.
I'm obviously Shaggy. What kind of accent even is that? I'm obviously Shaggy. Fucking hell. Basically, the world building in this show requires a whole ass lecture to explain, okay? I think the most efficient way to talk about this is to talk about the Crystal Cove mystery, right? The overall curse of Crystal Cove, the timeline of it, and its impact on everything, okay? And then after that, we can cover any remaining little tidbits here and there that kind of inform it, obviously. Can this count as a Scooby snack? I think it can. First, a weird evil entity is trapped in a sarcophagus in Yucatan that is later found by 4 people and their pet jaguar. That first group becoming the first mystery solving group that has been pulled together to try and release this evil entity. The evil entity is doing all of this, you know, it's pulling them, finding people who are interested in mystery solving. It's interested in having people come and release it, okay? This group of 4 and their pet managed to figure out that they're actually being manipulated and then the evil entity is in fact evil because no one quite actually knows what the entity is. They don't even know that they're being manipulated, right? They just think that they want to solve this mystery. So they decide to, destroy it, obviously, with a thing that they called the Heart of Jaguar, which is like this crystal thing. This group of mystery solvers, though, they get interrupted. They don't actually get to finish what they started because a bunch of conquistadors came to loot the place, okay? As soon as they get that sarcophagus, they leave Yucatan and start pillaging, okay? The show kind of insinuates that they're pillaging because of the influence of the entity. But honestly, that's a bit ridiculous because diva. What the hell do you think a bunch of conquistadors were doing all the way in Mexico? You think they were just passing by? Ridiculous. Anyway, the main guy from that group of conquistadors, Captain El Aguirre. By the way, if you ever look up anything on Scooby Wiki, by the way, some of the things are not really like exactly correct on it, but still a very great tool if you need some information, obviously. But you will find that on the page of Captain El Aguirre, you will see that there's like a little note that says, for his ghost, see monstrous freak. The names are absolutely fantastic, dude. He decided that they need to get rid of the sarcophagus for the same reason as the group before. They realize that they're being influenced by this entity in negative ways, obviously. The conquistadors stopped at a random location that did not really have a name, at least that's what they said, hit the sarcophagus deep underground, okay? Dragged the ship all the way to the top of the mountain and hid a piece of the map, that planispheric disc we already talked about, on that ship. Pray tell me, Elagire. Why not just take this stupid ass planispheric disc piece and hide it in the mountains? Why did you have to force a bunch of people to drag the ship all the way up into the mountains when you just looked wistfully at them? This is literal back-breaking labor. And this dude is not doing any of it, by the way. So honestly, cruel as hell, crazy as hell, and could have just hid the piece of that planispheric disc. Didn't have to do all that. Do you know what I mean? Whatever. I have to do what I have to do, you know what I mean? To be Shaggy. So the next group that found the planispheric disc, or pieces of it, I think only 2 or some shit, were some missionaries. The mystery and that entity drove these guys mad. The scene of them obsessing over the pieces is genuinely creepy. Their animal companion, this time a donkey named Porto, got influenced by the evil entity to blow up the town. And the thing is, that donkey-ass bitch actually did it, causing half of the town to crumble and sink into the ocean. The missionaries and their donkey disappeared after that, not because they like got up and left together or some shit. It's kind of implied that the donkey was eaten by a bunch of alligators and the rest of them went mad because of the pieces and kind of also ended up in random places, not really sound of mind. What follows is a series of mystery-solving groups of 4 people and their pet animal becoming involved in the process of solving the Crystal Cove mystery and disappearing in the midst of their investigation. There are some that are only briefly mentioned and they're not as important for the story, except for, I guess, some of the artifacts that they used to get through all the locked doors on the way to the sarcophagus. One of the groups that we actually get to see a lot more of is the Darrow family. The Darrows found a piece of the planispheric disc and just like the missionaries went mad. An earthquake struck their house and they sunk deep into the ground where no one else found them. They perished one by one until only the youngest Darrow family member was left standing. We see him trying to trap the Scooby Gang and his look is incredibly different. Obviously he aged, of course, but he also became somewhat Gollum looking. I think the creators were probably inspired by Gollum. There's this certain approach of this, my precious, that feeds into it as well. It turns out that after all these years, he didn't even notice that his entire family were dead. Eventually stays behind in the collapsing house, refusing to leave it, basically condemning himself to death as well. The next group is, of course, the original Mystery Incorporated group, consisting of Fred's parents, Cassidy, Mr. E, and Professor Pericles. Unlike the rest of the groups that came before them, they did not get actually, lost, abducted. They were never really missing. They actually got exiled by Fred's mayor dad, who isn't his dad, who kidnapped him as a baby. Mayor dad was not interested in the mystery part of it all, okay? He was interested in the money, all the shit that the conquistadors brought over after pillaging for absolutely God knows how long. He also framed Professor Pericles for the whole situation. This is why we meet Professor Pericles for the first time as an audience when the Scooby Gang goes to the asylum for the criminally insane animals. The next group of mystery solvers is obviously the Mystery Inc. that we're most familiar with, the main characters, Daphne, Fred, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby. Let me explain where the evil entity is actually coming from, right? Because this is going to inform a lot of this, and also, honestly, a lot of this is a little bit convoluted. There's a lot of pieces that are from different types of cultures, myth. It's a hodgepodge of a bunch of shit to the point where honestly you have to rewatch it multiple times to catch it all, and not in a way where it makes the most sense imaginable. In many ways it's because there's just a lot of things that don't really have a lot to do with each other in one place, which makes your mind kind of short circuit a little bit. So the evil entity is an Anunnaki. If you're like, what the hell is an Anunnaki? Well, Anunnaki in Scooby Doo specifically, okay? Specifically in Mystery Inc. is a type of aliens that are from a different dimension than Earth. And they visit Earth only during a celestial event called Nibiru. Nibiru is basically a bunch of planets lined up, which makes the veil between dimensions really thin, so Anunnaki who are from a different dimension than Earth could actually pass through. If, on the other hand, you were like, I know who the Anunnaki are, because you're familiar with things like Mesopotamian, religion religions, I have to tell you here that it seems like they took that history and religion and then just kept only some of the visuals and names and then got at everything else because it has very little to do with the actual myths. I've been trying to understand the mix of influences here, because if it's supposed to be influenced by Mesopotamia, why on the fuck of the earth was the sarcophagus discovered in Yucatan? If you're not familiar, Yucatan is in Mexico, not in Middle East, okay? And Mesopotamia is obviously in the Middle Eastern region. I don't know. Let's just say it was there for whatever reason, and who cares, right? What we are gonna focus on is Nibiru, because Nibiru in Scooby Doo is a name for alignment of planets that causes the veil to be thinner. In Babylonian or Mesopotamian mythology, it is a widely contended term because it basically just means crossing, and most likely, this is the most recent reading of it, which did occur after the release of the show, it means an equinox. Here's what's important though, just so people don't get confused. When you look up Nibiru, what comes up is a doomsday conspiracy that was proposed in 1995 by a woman named Nancy Leader, or Later, fuck knows, Lighter? Girl, I don't know. She proposed that a large planet would collide or near miss Earth in the early 21st century. It's obviously a hoax, and it took over the SEO for real, dude. Because this is genuinely what you get first when you look it up. If you know anything about basic physics, if you know anything about space at all, I mean just at all, you probably roll your eyes at the concept of any large planet colliding with Earth at any point in the near future. It's just not how the universe works, mama. It's just not how the universe works, mama. Regardless, she predicted that it was going to happen in 2003. Then it got moved again and again until this dude, David Mead, said it was going to happen in 2017. And that on October 5th, Nibiru would eclipse the sun, and North Korea, China, and Russia would launch a combined nuclear attack on the United States. Girl, basically, what I'm trying to say is that this Nibiru concept in Scooby Doo is inspired by the Babylonian, Mesopotamian type shit. Even though you're probably going to be bombarded by this new age Nibiru nonsense first, that Planet X nonsense, if you ever decide to look into it. So just keep in mind that it is talking about this old concept of equinox, not this 1995 proposed nonsense, okay? Anyway, the Anunnaki are kind of like spirits. They can't communicate unless they inhabit an animal's body, okay? Specifically, only animals can be host of the Anunnaki. You might have already heard that Scooby is like an alien, or that he is an Anunnaki himself. That's what people oftentimes say. That's not entirely correct, to be honest, because he is a descendant of an animal that has been inhabited by an Anunnaki at one point, which explains why he is capable of speaking. However, he's not an Anunnaki himself, because if he would have been an Anunnaki, he would have known that he's an Anunnaki, because Anunnaki inhabit an animal and they retain their memories and they know what they're doing, they know why they're there, etc., etc. Okay? This is also why Professor Pericles can speak. This is one of the big pieces of this version of Scooby-Doo lore, of this world building, that the reason why some animals can speak and others cannot is because some of them are, descendants of animals that have been inhabited by the Anunnaki. Anunnaki's existence is really interesting as well when it comes to the termination of it. If an Anunnaki is destroyed or killed, I guess, their existence is entirely erased. And I don't mean from that point on, obviously. I mean everything that they've ever had influence on is going to be erased or altered to reflect a world that would have happened if they never existed. The only entities that would remember that they ever existed, or what the world used to be like before that Anunnaki died, would be other Anunnaki, as well as other creatures, I guess. Doesn't have to be humans, I would assume, that were close to the Anunnaki in question. In this case, when the evil Anunnaki is destroyed, Crystal Cove is fundamentally changed to a place that was never influenced by this intergalactic or interdimensional evil being. Another big part of the world building in this show is obviously this thing that I've referenced a couple of times, especially visually speaking, the sitting room, which is a one-to-one recreation of the Red Room, the Black Lodge from Twin Peaks. Its design is one-to-one to that Red Room from Twin Peaks, but also there are characters like, for example, this guy who is named Horatio Heron that shows the gang a way into this interdimensional space. He is literally the arm from Twin Peaks in terms of his look, of course. Just like with many other myths and legends and stories that this show pulls from, this particular use of influences for the sitting room is both a good and a bad decision when it comes to being inspired by Twin Peaks' Red Room. On one hand, the Red Room is supposed to represent or be inspired by the Black Lodge, which is a concept of this mythological space from the Nimiipu native people's stories. Keep in mind that this is referencing a David Lynch's take on a Black Lodge, which I don't have to tell you is not going to be the same as someone from Nimiipu's tribe would be, right? There's definitely going to be miscommunication and whatever. This isn't going to be accurate to Nimiipu's stories, lore, legends, myths that this is pulling from, right? Essentially, the Black Lodge is supposed to be a place that all souls pass through on the way to perfection, which one can assume is talking about the passage to the other side. The Black Lodge is an interdimensional place of the shadow self and all evil, so it makes sense to use it in both Twin Peaks and consequently Mystery Inc., just conceptually speaking. In Mystery Inc., the sitting room is reached by hypnosis or within dreams. It is used as a space of communication for the Anunnaki to reach others and for the evil Anunnaki, aka evil entity, to imprison the good side of people's identity when influencing them to free it. As a cool reference, it works. As a visual, it really works. However, in terms of this reference working as function of this room, it does not really line up or work really well. For it to make sense, it would have to be the dark side or the shadow self entrapment room, because that's what the Black Lodge is supposed to be, where your shadow self is going through this trials on the way out. But in Scooby Doo, it's the good sides of all these people living in Crystal Cove that get trapped there. It's like basically the opposite, so it's a little bit funky, obviously. It's clunky, it's a little loose, but visually it works so well that I am willing to close my eyes and pretend like this isn't all over the place, conceptually speaking. One thing that I do like about this whole thing is that it does explain why so many characters are so messed up in Crystal Cove. If you really think about it, especially for a children's cartoon, obviously we don't get to see too many messed up things, right? Because it is a children's show, but they went as far as they could, I guess. Like, for example, why everyone's parents are awful, with some being guilty of just neglect, which knowing the sins of the other parents makes them look like saints in comparison, but obviously not a great thing. Obviously, still neglect. Also, Cassidy's soul was there too, even though she's arguably not at all that corrupted by the entity. I do, however, think that there's another unaddressed issue in the world building of this show that could potentially turn into a very interesting setup for a third season if they ever get to make it. And it is why don't the current kids of Mystery Inc. have their spirits split and imprisoned in this sitting room? And even if theoretically speaking, just theoretically speaking, it is because they're merged in the sitting room when we actually see it, then why don't they get the same magic fix-up of their selves when the evil entity is destroyed and Crystal Cove is changed to a timeline where that influence was never there? You could argue that this is kind of for the same reason as to why the Scooby Gang actually remembers what happens or what happened to compare to the rest of the Crystal Cove inhabitants. In case you forgot, it is due to everyone being close to the Anunnaki and other Anunnaki remembering what happened to the destroyed Anunnaki. But that doesn't really work as an explanation, because even if their memories are intact, the rest of the evil influence has been erased. That actually poses a really interesting question. Did the old dimension and the new dimension Scooby Gangs merge? Does Fred at the end both remember his weird kidnapper mayor dad and his entire life just knowing this coach guy that had nothing to do with his family tree. And also isn't his dad nor a kidnapper. Does he remember his parents that would never try to kill him for an evil spirit? And the ones that were so cucked for it, they quite literally kneeled for it before being brutally consumed by its tentacles? Does he just vaguely remember it? Or does he have all the emotions attached to it, including love and hate to both sets of people? Does it all have to coexist in one mind? And it seems to me by the reaction of the gang that they were basically transplanted from one reality to the next, with other happier version of them erased entirely. Because why would they be confused by their current lives, acting like they are being introduced to everything from scratch if that weren't the case? I think psychologically speaking, this is a great setup for a show. One that is extremely surreal and maybe heavy, sure, but definitely something that would be worth exploring. I do think they would have to, the creators would have to pursue an older demographic if they were to actually continue this show, because I don't know how you can give all these people this background, so many issues to unpack, and just never unpack it in the slightest. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no way in hell you can just move on from that. Okay, so now that we've covered some of the main lore, we've covered a lot of ground when it comes to it, let's cover a couple of things that are smaller but still important to mention. Like, for example, what goddamn year is it? This show is supposed to be a prequel to the original, show, which was set in the late 60s. It's fine if they didn't really follow that timeline, but it seems like they try to. As I've said, the entirety of the fashion, all of the wardrobe is of the time, but then they have pocket phones, which didn't become available until like the 1980s, the middle of the 1980s. And by the way, I don't mean like everyone had them, it was so affordable, yada yada. I mean just like in general, if it would have been possible. Because one thing about this Scooby gang is that they're loaded, okay? These kids are coming from families that are filthy rich for God knows what reason. They also have laptops and websites that look like something you'd only be able to get or see or use in the late 1990s at best. But then they make an effort not to use technology that seems to be too far in the future in some other instances. I mean, what year is it, people? Please. And it genuinely makes no sense. On the topic of Scooby tradition, of all mysteries always ending up being just like a person in a costume, not something supernatural, yada yada. I think that with an emphasis on astronomy and interdimensional kind of alien storyline, it seems like it doesn't stray away too far in terms of going to like magic-esque. I know that a lot of people seem to say that it kind of broke that tradition, but I don't think that there was a way to do it without going a little bit further into the non-scientific science, I guess, which honestly is commonly used in the original as well, because they didn't really follow the proper rules of physics, even the most basic ones, or chemistry, or biology for that matter. If you remember, the monsters of the week, criminals of the week, mysteries of the week characters, all of them were doing things that weren't possible to do. But within the show, it was explained as something scientific. Velma would usually jump in and explain it. It's kind of a similar approach in this show. I don't think they went too far with it into the magic realm. I think that the interdimensional stuff and whatever, it's treated more as like just a theory on how the world could be working. So I don't think it's too much, but I understand that there's a lot of people who are really big fans of the franchise as a whole. I'm not that knowledgeable about every single iteration of the show. I obviously put in a lot of hours into doing my research for this, but there are limits, okay, to how much I know, obviously. Rapid fire things that interested me that were world building related. Number 1, formaldehyde is the official Crystal Cove scent. If there's one thing that the creators snuck in that was creepy as balls, it was this. It's cookie time, sorry. Scooby is somehow taking classes at the same school that the gang goes to. The same classes, by the way. He's literally sitting in the same classes as them.
I don't even know why I let you take this class. Oh, winged friends, what will you do when the ground you call your home is filled with pollution?
In Crystal Cove, you can get jailed for drinking Euro drinks, which turns out to be just espresso.
What are they doing in there?
Conspicuous consumption of Euro-style coffee drinks.
That weirdo adventurer that steals shit from all over the globe calls his assistant Kachinga because it sounds savage to him, and eats raw steak because once again it sounds savage to him. Taught biology at the gang school. What does being a thief and a grave robber have to do with anything teaching biology related? Their police chief once lost his job to a ghost, in quotations, because the mayor really wanted to save money on
healthcare, bullets, bloodstain removal.
One of my fave funky additions to the world building of, Crystal Cove and adjacent spaces is this little town somewhere in the mountains nearby or in the desert, fuck knows, that is basically operating in this own bubble of beauty standards where all the hunks and all the beautiful people are considered to be ugly there.
And the hideous, ugly Jimmy. Being so deformed and all.
And I love that it's a little bit of a, reference to the way that we have these beauty standards that are kind of the opposites depending on where you are in the world. Pericles already spent a bunch of time with another mystery solver. They went through World War II together, I guess. She was the type of person who was making a bunch of technology and whatever. She made a bunch of World War II robot-style things that she later left in the underwater bunker that was used by Pericles to kill Cassidy. Well, he didn't try to kill Cassidy specifically. He wanted to kill everybody. It's just Cassidy died. And the most important part that I want to mention here is that those robots were having babies.
What the?
You said it, sister.
Go! Baby robots are still robots.
They had a daycare, dude. What a beautiful community-based society, but what the hell? Destroido in this universe, it's like a company that Mr. E started, whatever. They are a sovereign nation.
Destroido won't even allow me onto their property without a Destroido passport.
Down to actually having citizenships and passports, okay? They don't pay taxes and don't listen to the sheriff. Destroido is so realistically evil, which maybe back then wasn't as realistically evil. I think it still was, honestly, let's be real. But today, definitely just like not even the parody anymore, not even an exaggeration in any type of way. They literally gave coupons to use at their businesses to people who had mutations because of their products. Question for the culture. How did Mr. E know the melody off of the planispheric disc if he's never had all the pieces of the planispheric disc? And he knows it for sure, by the way, because it's the same melody that opens his lair, I guess. Velma's family has a dynamite shed. And the last thing that I think is really funny is whenever I remember Scooby's full name.
Scoobert Scooby Doo.
And here it is. If you watch this video just for the hell of it and you have never seen Scooby Doo, I hope that you maybe give it a chance, this particular iteration of it anyway. I also hope that you're ready for the next deep dive, which is a deep dive into a 2011 adaptation of Looney Tunes, which is also a really weird 2-season long 52 episode show that weirdly has a vibe of coming of age comedy, 20 somethings after college living and going through life together kind of thing, which is kind of crazy. And we will talk about all of that next time. Bye.